from the 1st District of Oriental Mindoro is recognized for his sponsorship.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, fellow members of the House of Representatives, ladies and gentlemen, as Vice Chair of the House Committee on Local Governments and Chair of the Committee's Technical Working Group, I have the honor of sponsoring on the plenary House Bill number 11287, which is a substitute bill of 80. In so doing, we will be able to prevent and avoid the holding of 2 elections in a single year, thus minimizing huge budgetary expenses and also reducing too much politicking that happens in case of frequent elections or political exercises at short intervals. The substitute bill also moved the conduct of the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections to May from October upon the recommendation of the Commission on Elections. There is practical wisdom in doing so. October is a typhoon season. Just last October, we experienced 4 typhoons in a single month. School buildings are usually converted into evacuation centers during typhoons. Thus, the conduct of elections on that period might interfere with disaster response measures of the local government units. Furthermore, the summer months coincide with the school break when the classrooms would be available for the polling exercise. Our school teachers are free to act as election officers. A longer term for Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan officials would also have salutary benefits. The barangays serve as the basic political unit in our scheme of government. The barangays are the primary planning and implementing unit of the government. They are at the front line in service delivery, peace and order maintenance, disaster mitigation and response, environmental management, and other vital governmental functions. If the barangay officials will be given a longer term of office, we can develop a core of well-trained, well-experienced and skilled leaders at the grassroots level, free from the pressures and vagaries of constant politicking. The barangay officials can focus on their responsibilities as community leaders and promote the welfare of their constituents without being distracted by electoral considerations. By fixing the term of barangay officials and Sangguniang Kabataan officials to 6 years, we will also obviate the need to enact legislation postponing or resetting their elections, which was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in the case of Makalintal First Commission elections decided last June 27, 2023. I want to stress, Madam Speaker, that in enacting this proposed legislation, Congress is not postponing or resetting the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections. Neither are we extending the terms of these officials, for that would be constitutionally untenable as pronounced by the Supreme Court in the Makalintal case. Instead, in this proposed legislation, Congress is fixing with definitiveness the terms of barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan officials, which, in the determination of constitutional boundaries, is a power clearly and exclusively allocated by the fundamental law to Congress. As stated in Article 10, Section 8 of the 1987 Constitution, the term of office of elective barangay officials shall be determined by law. The bill fixing the term of office of barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan officials is therefore within the constitutional prerogative of Congress. For this reason, I believe that this proposed legislation can withstand any constitutional challenge. In view of the foregoing, Madam Speaker, the approval of House Bill number 11287 by this chamber is earnestly requested. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Faustino Ino D, the 5th of the 6th District of Isabela, to deliver his sponsorship speech.
The Honorable Faustino Ino D is recognized for his sponsorship speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, firstly, we have crafted this bill in accordance with the guidelines set forth by the Supreme Court in the cases of Macalental versus Comelec and Hidalgo versus Executive Secretary. And to be clear, the Supreme Court did not prohibit the postponement of the barangay and SK elections, but merely set the criteria to be met. Kaya naman po, Mr. Speaker, masaya po ko ngayong araw at sa wakas, may pagkakataon na tayo may ayos ang term of office ng barangay officials by allowing them to serve for 6 years, limited to 2 consecutive terms, and limiting SK officials to 1 term only. Mr. Speaker, ang panukalang batas na ito ay malapit po sa akin dahil ako po ay nanilbihan dati bilang barangay chairman at naging former national president ng Liga ng mga Barangay. Kaya noong panahon po namin noong 2018, amin ding idunulog sa Kongreso ang aming pagnanais na ipospon ng eleksyon dahil kulang ang oras upang ipatupad na maayos ang mga proyekto at programa ng ating pamahalaan. Sa kadahilanan na sa unang taon mo bilang bagong opisyal ng barangay ay may learning period ka sa iyong trabaho at ikaw ay dadaan sa iba't ibang klaseng trainings. Bukod pa dito, maraming pondo ang ginagastos ng ating mga barangay officials para sa training ng ating mga barangay workers, kagaya ng mga PHW, BNS, barangay secretary at iba pa. Na alam naman po natin ay karaniwang napapalitan pag ibang barangay chairman na ang nagwagi sa halalan. Para po sa kalaman ng lahat, ang ginagawa ng barangay officials para sa kanilang mga komitment ay higit pa sa mga tungkulin at responsibilidad na nakalagay sa local government code at iba pang mga batas. Ito ay dahil halos lahat ng problema sa ating mga komunidad ay concern din ng mga barangay. At bukod pa rito, hindi sapat ang honorarium na kanilang natatanggap. Kaya naman sila ay tunay na mga lingkod bayan. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, countless programs and activities of the national and local governments that are crucial for nation building are cascaded to and implemented by the barangays. So, Mr. Speaker, what we've experienced in 2018 is the same situation that the newly elected barangay officials face. With their current term of office, they will only be allowed to serve for little more than 2 years. Again, we have already spent billions in the conduct of the BSKE elections. We have also spent billions to conduct trainings for new barangay officials and barangay workers throughout the country, the cost of which is charged to their already limited barangay funds. Mr. Speaker, rather than having 2 elections in a 6-year period, not only will our country save billions of pesos, but our communities will be saved from the political divisiveness that is deeply sown during election periods. So conducting barangay and SK elections on second Monday of May 2029 and every 6 years thereafter will also prevent conflict with any national or local elections until 2095. So my dear colleagues, as representatives of our districts, I'm sure that most of you are aware of the plight of our barangay officials. Many of us here will agree that most of them are true public servants who want nothing more than to serve and better their communities. However, this representation also agrees na mahabang panahon po ito para sa mga barangay officials na hindi nagtatrabaho at abusado. Totoo naman po ito. Pero, ang panahon na ito ay nararapat at sapat para sa mga opisyalis na nagtatrabaho ng tapat para sa kanilang barangay at kanilang mga kabarangayan na alam kong higit na mas nakararami. So, Mr. Speaker, let's not allow a few rotten apples to spoil the bunch. There are always ways to discipline and remove erring officials in accordance with our laws. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, this bill aims to promote stability and continuity in the delivery of essential social services provided by the more than 42,000 barangays to the Filipino people. So I appeal to all of you, my dear colleagues, to support the passage of this bill, as I am confident that the barangay officials in your district will be grateful for your support. Maraming salamat po, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Ricardo S. Quiroz Jr. to deliver his sponsorship speech.
The Honorable Ricardo S. Cruz Jr. from the Lone Taguig Padero City is recognized for his sponsorship.
Madam Speaker, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I rise today to humbly ask your support for House Bill number 11287, entitled An Act Fixing the Term of Office of Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan Officials and Changing their term of office from 3 years to 6 years, amending for the purpose Section 42 and 43 of Republic Act number 7160, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991 as amended. This measure seeks to institute your main reforms, fix the term of office of barangay and SK officials to 6 years, synchronize the barangay and SK elections to the second Monday of May 2029, limit barangay officials to 2 consecutive terms, and limit SK officials to 1 term. This measure has garnered widespread support from various stakeholders, including barangay officials, SK representatives, and community leaders. Their insight and experiences have been instrumental in crafting a bill that addresses the realities on the ground. Their voice reflects a shared aspiration to provide our local leaders with the time and stability necessary to effect meaningful change in their communities. Having served as a barangay captain myself, I understand the challenges of a short term in office, policies that need to be institutionalized, require time, and more often than not, 3 years is simply too short. This is especially true because incumbent officials are often preoccupied with the looming need to prepare for an upcoming campaign during their term. By extending the term to 6 years, not only does this ensure sufficient time for barangay and SK leaders to implement programs and deliver essential services without disruption. It also avoids overlapping with national election, giving COMELEC ample time to prepare. Moreover, we address frequent postponement of barangay and SK election, providing stability for these vital political units which serve as the front line of governance and public service. Second, by synchronizing the barangay and SK elections to the second Monday of May, logistical issues caused by the typhoon season are reduced. Third, limiting barangay officials to 2 consecutive terms will strike a balance between continuity of leadership and the opportunity for new individuals to bring in fresh ideas and approaches to local governance. This measure aims to prevent the prolonged consolidation of power by a single individual, mitigating risk of political complacency or abuse of authority. It also aligns with democratic principles by encouraging leadership turnover while maintaining stability for a sufficient period to implement programs effectively. The limit ensures accountability and responsiveness by requiring officials to learn the trust of their constituent anew after their tenure. Lastly, the single-term limit for SK officials ensures a dynamic rotation of young leaders, allowing more individuals to gain leadership experience and contribute to community development. This measure fosters inclusivity as more youth are given the chance to serve and develop their skills in governance. Additionally, the one-term limit encourages SK officials to maximize their limited time in office to implement meaningful projects, thereby instilling a sense of urgency and responsibility in serving their peers. This is a step in the right direction. Isang reforma ito, pero madami pang reforma ang dapat gawin. We urge this 19th Congress to support this measure for a more stable, more effective, and more accountable grassroots governance system that truly serve the people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.